The red sun was setting over Earth as Commander James Mitchell walked slowly through the Memorial Gardens. His boots made soft sounds on the stone path as he moved between the tall black walls covered in names. So many names that they seemed to go on forever, glowing with a soft blue light in the growing darkness. James stopped in front of the largest wall. The Proxima Memorial. 12 billion names scrolled slowly up and down the smooth surface. His sister Rachel's name was there somewhere, along with all the other children who died 50 years ago when the aliens came to destroy humanity. He touched the wall gently. The stone was warm, heated by some technology he didn't understand. But he understood the pain. Even after 50 years, it hurt like it happened yesterday. The children were scared, a calm voice said from speakers hidden in the memorial. It was the computer that told visitors about what happened. They ran to the mining tunnels under Proxima Colony when the alien ships came. The parents thought the children would be safe underground. James closed his eyes. He had heard this story 1,000 times, but it never got easier. The hegemony sealed all the tunnel entrances with plasma fire. No one could get in. No one could get out. The children called for help on their radios until the power ran out. Then there was only silence. Rachel had been 8 years old. She loved to draw pictures of Earth's oceans, even though she had never seen them. She was going to visit Earth for her 9th birthday. Instead, she died in darkness, buried alive with 3,000 other children. The hegemony. 7 different alien species who thought humans were nothing more than bugs to be stepped on. They had beautiful names for themselves. The Avirans with their colorful feathers and proud voices. The Silicon Collective with their crystal bodies that sang like music. The plant masters who could make entire worlds bloom with life. But to humans, they had been monsters. Why did they hate us so much? A young voice asked. James turned to see a girl, maybe 10 years old, reading the names on the wall. She had dark hair and serious eyes. Her teacher, a tired-looking woman, stood nearby with a group of other children on a school trip. They were afraid of us, James said softly. Humans were different. We didn't follow their rules. We built colonies on worlds they said were too dangerous. We survived things that should have killed us. And when they told us to give up our homes, we said no. The girl looked up at him. So they tried to kill all of us. Yes. They called it the Suppression War, but it was really genocide. They wanted to wipe out every human in the galaxy. The teacher moved closer. Come along, Sarah. Don't bother the commander. But James knelt down to the girl's level. It's okay. She should know. You all should know what happened here. He pointed to different sections of the memorial wall. Mars colony. 3 million people. They poisoned the air recycling systems. Everyone died slowly, gasping for breath. Europa Station. The aliens cracked the ice moon in half. 5 million people froze to death in space. Kepler Colony, where families had built beautiful farms. The aliens burned everything and hunted down every survivor like animals. The children were quiet now, their young faces serious as they tried to understand something so terrible. But we're still here, said a boy with red hair. We won, right? James's smile was sad. We survived. That's not the same as winning. The aliens stopped trying to kill us 50 years ago when they realized we were harder to destroy than they thought. They signed a peace treaty and went back to their part of the galaxy. We stayed here, around Earth, rebuilding. He stood up and looked at the memorial again. But we never forgot. We never forgave. And we never stopped preparing. Preparing for what? Asked Sarah. Before James could answer, he heard footsteps behind him. Ambassador Helen Wright was walking quickly toward them, her face pale and worried. She was one of the few people who dealt with alien governments, and she never looked happy about it. James, she said, slightly out of breath. I need you at the council building. Right now. More trade talks with the aliens? James asked, not really interested. He was tired of pretending to be friendly with creatures who had murdered his family. No. Helen's voice was strange, almost confused. They're not here to talk about trade. They're not here to make demands or give orders. She paused, looking around at the memorial walls covered in names. They're here to beg. James felt something cold in his stomach. In 50 years, the hegemony had never begged for anything. They were proud, arrogant, convinced they were better than everyone else. What could possibly make them desperate enough to ask humans for help? Beg for what? He asked. Helen looked at the children, then back at James. Help. They need our help to survive. Something is coming, James. Something that makes them more afraid than they ever made us. James thought about this as he looked one more time at his sister's name on the memorial wall. The aliens who had murdered billions of humans were now scared enough to come crawling back, asking for protection from the people they had tried to exterminate. He wondered if they remembered the children of Proxima Colony. He wondered if they cared. "Tell them I'll be there in 10 minutes, he said. As Helen hurried away, James turned back to the children. "Remember this place," he told them. "Remember these names. Because the people who did this are about to learn something very important about humanity." "What's that?" asked Sarah. James's eyes were hard as steel. "We never forget. And we always remember who our real friends are." The council building had never seen anything like this before. For 50 years, no alien had been allowed inside Earth's government headquarters. The walls still showed scorch marks from the war, left there on purpose so no one would forget what the hegemony had done to humanity. But today, 7 different alien creatures stood in the center of the great round room, and they looked nothing like the proud conquerors who had once tried to wipe out the human race. High Counselor Thek was the first to speak. He was one of the bird-like Averans, tall and covered in what had once been bright blue and gold feathers. Now his feathers looked dull and gray, hanging loose like he was sick. His large black eyes darted around the room nervously. "Honored humans," Thek said in his musical voice that still made James's skin crawl. "We come before you in our darkest hour." Admiral Robert Kane sat at the head table with the other human leaders. He was an old man now, but his eyes were still sharp and angry. His left arm was metal from the elbow down, lost during the Battle of Titan when alien plasma fire had nearly killed him. "Darkest hour?" Kane's voice was cold as space. "You mean like when you murdered 3 billion humans on New Terra? Or when you hunted down our children like wild animals?" The alien next to Thek stepped forward. It looked like a giant insect, with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected the room's lights. This was Speaker Vex from the Collective, a race of bug-like creatures who thought with one shared mind. "We deserve your anger," Vex clicked and buzzed. "We were wrong. We were afraid of your species and we acted in fear." "Afraid?" Colonel Emma Davis laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You had ships the size of cities. You had weapons that could crack planets. What could you possibly fear from us?" "Your adaptability," said a new voice. This one sounded like wind chimes singing. It came from Harmony of Crystal Song, a being made of living glass from the Silicon Collective. Light passed through its body in beautiful patterns, but even its crystal form seemed cracked and dim. "You survived everything we threw at you. You learned. You changed. You became stronger." General William Foster stood up slowly. His parents had died when the aliens bombed Mars Colony. He had been only 5 years old then, but he still remembered the sound of the air raid sirens. "So you decided to kill us all," Foster said quietly. "Every man, woman, and child in human space. Because you were afraid we might become a threat someday." "Yes," Thek admitted, his head hanging low. "We were fools. We see that now." "You see that now because you need something from us," said Admiral Kane. "So what is it? What's so terrible that it makes you crawl back to the people you tried to genocide?" Thek activated a holographic projector he carried on his belt. The air above the table filled with images of space, showing star systems and planets that James didn't recognize. But as he watched, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Entire solar systems were just gone. Where planets and stars should have been, there was nothing but empty darkness. The images showed this happening over and over, system after system disappearing like someone was erasing them from existence. "The Devourers," whispered another alien voice. This one belonged to Root who drinks starlight, one of the plant-like creatures from the forest worlds. Its bark-like skin was usually a healthy brown, but now it looked gray and sick. "They came from outside our galaxy 6 months ago." "What are they?" asked Defense Minister Margaret Stone. "We don't know," Vex buzzed sadly. "They appear to be machines, but unlike any technology we understand. They don't conquer planets. They don't enslave populations. They simply consume everything." The hologram changed to show massive mechanical structures, bigger than moons, moving through space. They looked like enormous metal spiders with thousands of legs reaching out to grab entire planets. "They break down all matter at the atomic level," Harmony of Crystal Song chimed. "Planets, stars, space stations, living beings. Everything becomes raw material to build more of their machines." "How many systems have they taken?" asked Kane. 412, Thek said, his voice barely a whisper. "And they're accelerating. At their current pace, they will reach the core worlds of our civilizations within 2 years." The human leaders looked at each other. 400 solar systems. Billions, maybe trillions of lives just erased. It was genocide on a scale that made even the suppression wars look small. What do your fleets do against them? Foster asked. Nothing, Root who drinks Starlight creaked mournfully. Our greatest battleships might as well be throwing rocks. The Devourers adapt to our weapons faster than we can fire them. Our most advanced tactics are useless. They learn from every attack and become stronger. The 7th Fleet engaged them at Rigel Station, Vex continued. 3,000 ships, our finest warriors. The battle lasted 18 minutes. No survivors. James felt sick. He had spent 50 years hating these aliens for what they did to humanity. But watching them now, broken and desperate, he almost felt sorry for them. Almost. So you want our help, Kane said. It wasn't a question. We're begging for it, Thek admitted. Our children face extinction. Our entire civilization will be consumed unless we find a way to stop them. Just like you tried to do to our children, Foster said coldly. Yes, Thek's voice cracked. Just like that. And now we understand the horror of what we did to you. We are sorry. We are so very sorry. The room fell silent. Outside the windows, Earth City sparkled in the gathering darkness. 50 years ago, the aliens had tried to turn all those lights off forever. Now they were asking the survivors to save their own worlds from the same fate. Admiral Kane leaned back in his chair, studying the desperate aliens who had once been humanity's greatest enemies. We'll need time to discuss this, he said finally. How much time? Thek asked desperately. Kane's smile was cold and sharp. As much time as we decide to take. The emergency meeting had been going on for 12 hours. The great Parliament hall buzzed with angry voices as representatives from every nation on Earth argued about what to do. Some shouted in fury, others spoke quietly, but everyone was thinking the same thing. Should humanity help the aliens who had tried to kill them all? Minister Charles Baker from the African Union slammed his fist on his desk. They want us to die for them. The same creatures who murdered our families now expect us to save theirs? Let them burn. Many people in the hall nodded and cheered. Baker's own brother had died on Europa Station when the aliens cracked the moon in half. His anger was real and deep. But Defense Secretary Margaret Stone stood up at the front of the room, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. Listen to yourselves. You sound just like them 50 years ago. They were afraid of what we might become, so they tried to kill us. Now you want to let billions die because you're afraid to forgive. This isn't about forgiveness, shouted Representative Lisa Chen from the Pacific Alliance. This is about survival. Why should we risk human lives for people who see us as insects? Admiral Kane had been sitting quietly, watching the debate. Now he stood up slowly, and the room fell silent. Everyone knew his story. His wife and 2 children had died when the aliens poisoned Mars colony's water supply. If anyone had the right to hate the hegemony, it was Robert Kane. You're all thinking too small, Kane said, his voice calm but strong. This isn't about helping them. This isn't about revenge. This is about what comes next. He walked to the center of the room and activated the holographic projector. The images of the Devourers filled the air above them, massive metal spiders consuming entire worlds. Those machines won't stop with hegemony space, Kane continued. They'll keep eating everything in their path until they reach Earth. We can fight them now with allies, or we can fight them later alone. But we will fight them eventually. So we help the aliens? Asked Minister Sarah Walsh from the European Federation. No, Kane said with a cold smile. We don't help them. We take over. The room erupted in confused voices. Kane held up his hand for silence. For 50 years, everyone thought we were hiding here around Earth, licking our wounds like beaten dogs. They were wrong. Kane touched a control, and new images appeared in the air. Show them, Margaret. Defense Secretary Stone stepped forward, her face serious. Project Phoenix, she said simply. The hologram changed to show things that made the Parliament members gasp. Massive shipyards hidden in the asteroid belt, bigger than anything Earth had ever built before. Weapons that bent space itself into knots. Ships that looked like living things instead of machines. We've been preparing, Stone explained. Not just to defend ourselves, but to make sure nothing like the suppression wars ever happens again. Our technology doesn't just fight, it learns and grows stronger. General Foster appeared on a video screen from the secret military base on Pluto. We studied every battle of the last war, he said. We learned why the aliens lost to us, even when they should have won. It wasn't because we were stronger or had better weapons. Then what was it? Asked Minister Baker, his anger replaced by curiosity. We're unpredictable, Foster said with a grin. Aliens think in patterns. They follow rules. They do what their leaders tell them to do. But humans? We improvise. We change plans in the middle of battles. We do things that don't make sense until they work. Kane nodded. The Devourers are machines. They learn from patterns and adapt to them. But they can't adapt to chaos. They can't understand creativity. You think we can beat them when the entire hegemony failed? Asked Representative Chen. I think we can beat them because the hegemony failed, Kane replied. They fought the machines the same way they fought us, with big fleets and predictable tactics. The Devourers learned to counter everything they did. Stone activated another display. Our new ships are built on organic principles. They can change shape during battle. Our weapons adapt faster than the enemy can learn. And our soldiers? She smiled. Our soldiers have been training for 50 years to fight an enemy that learns from everything we do. But we still need conditions, said Prime Minister David Harrison from his seat at the head table. We don't just give them our help for free. Kane's smile became sharp as a blade. Exactly. They want human military support? Fine. But they fight under human command. Complete human command. What else? Asked Harrison. War crimes trials for everyone who ordered attacks on human civilians. Full reparations to colony survivors and their families. And most importantly. Kane paused, looking around the room at faces that had known 50 years of anger and pain. Complete galactic citizenship for humanity. Equal rights, equal representation, equal respect. And if they refuse? Asked Minister Baker. Kane shrugged. Then they face the Devourers alone. And when the machines are done with them, we'll be ready for whatever comes next. The vote was called at dawn. Representative after representative stood up to cast their decision. Some voted with tears in their eyes. Others voted with cold anger. But when the count was finished, the result was clear. Earth would go to war again. But this time, humanity would lead. Prime Minister Harrison activated the communication system that would send their response to the desperate aliens waiting in orbit around Earth. This is Earth Command to Hegemony Fleet, he said formally. We accept your request for military alliance against the Devourer threat. He paused, and his voice became hard as steel. We also accept your unconditional surrender to human military authority. Welcome to the human way of war. In the silence that followed, every person in the Parliament Hall knew that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows of their home system. They were about to remind the galaxy why the aliens had been so afraid of them in the first place. The prey had become the hunter. The Battle of Kepler's Gate began at 0800 hours and ended everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. Captain Lisa Murphy stood on the bridge of her destroyer, the Vengeance, watching enemy machines the size of cities moving through space like hungry metal spiders. All ships, this is Admiral Kane, the voice crackled through the communication system. Remember what we learned 50 years ago. The enemy expects us to fight like them. Big formations, predictable attacks, following the rules. Don't give them what they expect. Lisa smiled grimly. Her ship was one of 50 human vessels facing 300 Devourer machines. The math looked impossible, but math had never been humanity's strong point. Survival was. Captain, called out Lieutenant Tom Bradley from his position at the weapons station. The alien fleets are moving into standard attack formation. Just like their tactical manuals say they should. Through the main screen, Lisa could see the hegemony ships arranging themselves in perfect geometric patterns. Thousands of alien vessels from 7 different species, all following their ancient military traditions. Beautiful to look at, and completely predictable. The Devourers reacted exactly as expected. Their massive forms shifted to counter the alien formation, weapons charging to destroy the neat rows of enemy ships. The machines had learned this dance from hundreds of previous battles. Poor fools, Lisa muttered, watching the aliens sail into what would surely be another massacre. They never learn. Human ships, Admiral Kane's voice came again. Execute Protocol Chaos 7. Lisa felt her heart race with excitement. Chaos 7 was her favorite. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to show these machines what real war looks like. Tom, kill the running lights. Jenny, give me random engine patterns. Mike, I want our ship's signature to change every 30 seconds. Within moments, the human fleet simply disappeared from the Devourer's sensors. The 50 ships scattered in directions that made no tactical sense, some diving toward planets, others racing toward empty space, a few actually flying straight at the enemy machines. "They can't lock onto us," called out Jenny Foster from the navigation station. "Our ships are changing too fast." The Devourers had adapted to fight enemies who followed rules. Ship formations, weapon patterns, predictable tactics. The machines learned from these things and became stronger. But humanity had thrown out the rulebook 50 years ago. Lisa's ship dove under a massive Devourer construct, so close that the metal hull scraped against its mechanical legs. Weapons fire from the machine passed harmlessly through empty space where her ship should have been according to every tactical computer in the galaxy. "Now," she shouted. The Vengeance fired its quantum disruption torpedoes point blank into the machine's core. The weapon had been designed by human scientists who understood something the aliens had forgotten. Sometimes the best way to win was to break the rules completely. The Devourer exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from 3-star systems away. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human ships struck from impossible angles. Commander Brian Clark's heavy cruiser Retribution actually used a Devourer machine as a shield, hiding behind its bulk before popping out to destroy 2 more enemies. "The machines are trying to adapt," reported Lieutenant Susan Grant from her reconnaissance ship. "But we keep changing the game before they can figure out the new rules." Lisa watched her tactical display with growing amazement. The Hegemony fleet was getting slaughtered just as they had in every previous battle. Their beautiful formations were being torn apart by machine precision. But the human ships were dancing through the chaos, striking and vanishing like ghosts. "Captain Murphy," came a transmission from one of the alien ships. It was High Counselor Thek's voice, filled with wonder and terror. "How are you doing this? Our finest tactical computers cannot predict your movements." "That's the point," Lisa replied, spinning her ship in a corkscrew pattern that would have made her crew sick if not for the inertial dampeners. "You think war is chess. We learned it's more like jazz music. You have to feel the rhythm and improvise." The tide of battle shifted completely when Admiral Kane himself joined the fight. His flagship Phoenix was a masterpiece of human engineering, a ship that could literally change shape during combat. One moment it looked like a sleek arrow, the next it resembled a metallic octopus with weapons sprouting from every surface. "All ships, converge on the construction facility," Kane commanded. "Time to cut off the head of this snake." The human fleet moved toward the massive Devourer factory ship with the fluid coordination of a school of fish. No formations, no rigid plans, just 50 captains who understood each other without needing to speak. Commander Clark led his Marines in a boarding action that would have been impossible for any other species. Instead of fighting through the machine corridors in organized squads, the humans spread out like water, each soldier finding their own path through the mechanical maze. "The machines keep sealing off passages," reported Sergeant Amy Davis over the radio. "But we're not going where they think we're going anyway." The boarding party reached the factory's core in 12 minutes, half the time any tactical computer said was possible. They planted their charges and evacuated using escape routes that didn't exist until they made them. When the factory exploded, it took 17 Devourer machines with it. The battle ended 6 hours after it began. Not a single human ship was lost. The Devourer fleet was completely destroyed, and for the first time since the invasion began, the machines had been forced to retreat. Admiral Thek's final report to his government was simple and terrifying: "The humans fight like nothing we have ever seen. They do not follow patterns. They do not use formations. They simply win." Across hegemony space, alien commanders began to understand why their ancestors had worked so hard to exterminate humanity. These creatures didn't just fight wars, they redefined what war itself could be. The galaxy's former victims had become its greatest warriors. 1 year after the last Devourer machine was destroyed, Admiral Kane walked through the rebuilt Proxima Memorial. The names of the dead still glowed softly on the black walls, but something new had been added. A garden where human and alien children played together under Earth's afternoon sun. Kane watched a young human girl teaching a small Averan chick how to throw a ball. The birdchild's feathers were bright yellow with excitement as it tried to copy the human movements. Nearby, a crystalline child from the Silicon Collective hummed gentle music while human children drew pictures on its glowing surface. "Admiral," came a familiar voice behind him. Ambassador Helen Wright approached with her daily reports, but she was smiling now in a way Kane hadn't seen for 50 years. "The morning news, Helen?" Kane asked, not taking his eyes off the children. "The Centauri Assembly voted to adopt human military training methods," Helen said, reading from her tablet. "They want our officers to teach their fleets how to think creatively in battle." Kane nodded. It made sense. Word had spread across the galaxy about how humans had defeated the Devourers using tactics that broke every rule of warfare. Now everyone wanted to learn the secret. What else? The Andromedan refugees have requested settlement rights in our outer colonies. Their home galaxy was completely consumed by the machines before we stopped them. Helen paused. They're offering to work as farmers and engineers. They say they want to help build something instead of just surviving. And the trials? Helen's smile faded slightly. High Counselor Thek testified yesterday about Kepler Station. Full confession. He broke down crying when he described how they sealed the tunnels with the children inside. Kane felt the old anger flicker in his chest, but it was different now. Cooler. More controlled. What did he ask for? Permission to plant a memorial tree for the victims. He wants to tend it personally as part of his sentence. Kane thought about this. 50 years ago, he would have laughed at the idea of an alien showing respect for human dead. Now, watching alien children play with human children in the shadow of a memorial to genocide, the world seemed more complicated. Tell him yes, Kane said finally. But he plants it with his own hands. No machines, no servants. Just him and a shovel. Already arranged, sir. They walked further into the memorial garden, past walls covered with the names of entire colonies. Kane stopped at a newer section, where fresh names had been carved. These were the humans who had died in the war against the Devourers, soldiers and civilians who had sacrificed themselves to save a galaxy that had once tried to destroy them. Any word from the frontier? Kane asked. Captain Murphy reports that the new border stations are operating perfectly. The early warning system should give us months of notice if anything else comes from outside the galaxy. Helen scrolled through her notes. She also says the mixed human-alien crews are working well together. Better than expected. Kane wasn't surprised. Combat had a way of breaking down barriers between species. When you fought side by side against extinction, old hatred seemed less important. Sir, Helen said quietly, there's something else. The Hegemony Council has made a formal request. What kind of request? They want to dissolve their government completely. They're asking Earth to take over administration of their core worlds. Kane stopped walking. All of them? All of them. They say they've proven they can't be trusted to govern themselves responsibly. They want the Terran Protectorate to become the new galactic government. Kane rubbed his forehead. When he was younger, the idea of ruling over the aliens who had murdered his family would have seemed like perfect justice. Now it just seemed like a heavy burden. What did the council say? They're meeting about it tomorrow. Prime Minister Harrison wants your opinion. Kane looked around the memorial garden again. Human children were teaching alien children how to climb trees. Alien children were showing humans how to sing in harmonies that human voices couldn't make alone. Together, they were creating something beautiful in a place built to remember terrible death. Tell them we'll do it, Kane said finally. But not as conquerors. As protectors. Sir. The Terran Protectorate will guarantee the safety and rights of any species that wants to join. Equal representation, equal justice, equal opportunity. But if anyone tries to start another genocide. Kane's voice became hard as steel. We'll remind them why the hegemony was so afraid of us in the first place. As the sun began to set, Kane made his way to the newest addition to the memorial. A small plaque that read simply, to those who chose to save their enemies rather than destroy them. The galaxy is safer because of your mercy. Below it, High Counselor Thek was kneeling in the dirt, carefully planting a young tree with his own feathered hands. The proud alien leader who had once ordered the death of billions now tended a garden like a common farmer. Admiral, Thek said without looking up. I dream about them sometimes. The children. Their voices calling for help. So do I, Kane said simply. How do you bear it? Kane watched the alien children playing with human children in the fading light. By making sure it never happens again. To anyone. Thek finished packing soil around the tree's roots. Will you ever forgive us? Kane was quiet for a long moment. Forgiveness isn't something you can give or receive like a gift. It's something you earn, one day at a time, by choosing to be better than you were. He walked away, leaving the former enemy to tend his memorial garden. Above them, the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, human and alien ships patrolled together, watching for new threats. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity once. Now it was learning to hope alongside them.